So that's how we get our medium triangle. And so why 9 is the length of my long side. And then, so I'm also going to have my, with that being said, I can now make my last triangle. My last triangle comes from my altitude as well. So I can see a tiny triangle right there. Again, this triangle is flipped upside down and turned around. I don't want that. I would like for it to look like all of my other triangles. So I'm going to keep the same orientation. And since I know where my right angle is, I have my right angle right here, I can label where my hypotenuse, my long, and my short side are. So remember, my hypotenuse is across from my right angle. So here's my hypotenuse. I know I don't have a lot of room, but my hypotenuse, or there's my right angle. And so my hypotenuse is across from there. So that's going to be X. And then I just need to think about where I'm going to put this one. This one is either my short side or my long side. And this one is on my shortest side. So I'm going to go find my shortest side in my triangle and make it a 1. And I'm going to make this X green. Now I have pulled out all 3 of my triangles. If you need help on this part, please pause this video and ask for it. I can help you there. But once you do that, you're actually ready to start the problem. We haven't even started the problem yet, really. We haven't even looked at what it said. This says solve for X. And so in order to solve for X, I'm going to do 2 things. First things first is I need to find my X's. So I'm going to locate your X's. So I have an X over here and I have an X over here. My blue triangle in the middle doesn't have any X's, so I actually don't need this triangle in the problem itself. I needed this triangle to find where my X's are. Now, mind you, if this problem said solve for Y's, there's a Y in this problem, so I would need it. But since there is no X in that triangle, I'm not even going to look at it. I don't want you confused by it. But once we find our 2 X's, we are going to set up our proportions. Set up my proportions. And so what I mean by proportions is we're going to take my locations on my X's. So this X right here happens on my short side. And this X over here happens on my hypotenuse. I'm going to take the locations and set up proportions. So this X happens on a short side. So I'm going to take the short side of my purple triangle, and divide it by the short side of my green triangle. So short with short, X over 1 is going to equal, and I'm going to set it equal to the proportion I make with the other, where the location is of my other X. So my other X happens at a hypotenuse. So I'm going to do my hypotenuse over my hypotenuse. But remember, since this X came from my purple triangle, then and that's on top of this fraction, then the number on top of this fraction has to come from the same triangle. We got to stay consistent. So I'm going to do 10, which is the hypotenuse of this triangle, divided by the hypotenuse of my green triangle, which is X. And a hint, so you know if you did this right, you set up your proportions right if your 2 variables, what you're looking for, are diagonally across from each other. One's on top and one's on bottom. Once you have your proportions, you are now able to set up your cross multiplication. That's how we solve proportions. And so now I'm going to cross multiply, and then I'm going to do my work over here. I have X times X is equal to 10 times 1. X times X, be careful, is X squared. And 10 times 1 is 10. In order to get X by itself, I need X by itself. Right now, I only have X squared by itself. I need to undo the square by doing a square root. So I'm going to cross that out. I get X, but what you do to one side, you need to do to the other side. So X is equal to the square root of 10. The square root of 10 is not a solid number. It's 1, 2, 3, or 4, or any solid number. It's 3 point something. So if it's not a nice number, you can give me just the square root of 10. If it was like the square root of 100, I would want you to tell me it was 10. If it was a nice number, I want you to tell me it was 10. But make sure now that you have this video, try this problem down here and check with the notes key that I have provided to you. Let me know if you need any help.